Okay, so we do Netivot Shalom, Sefer Bamidbar, Parashat Korach, right? We're moving quickly. And Va'aron ma'u kitalinu alav. So Moshe is asking, like, why are you complaining about Aaron? So it says in the book Be'er Avram, Mandaita, what Rashi explained in the name of the Tanchuma. Right, so Korach, Elbishan talitot shekulan tchelet. So Korach dressed them all with the talit that it's all tchelet, right? Tchelet is the blue color. הוא בא ועמדו לפני משה, and they were standing in front of Moshe, and they asked him, right, because the talid needs to have one of the strings, at least, or maybe all, I'm not sure, with the tchelet, right, which is coming from a special snail, right, it's a color. So I asked him, okay, but the whole talit is made from tchelet. Does it need a tzitzit or it's dismissed? And he said, yeah, you still need to have. And he says, okay, so like we see here that Korach was trying to provoke him and ask him like questions that look like just nitpicking or provoking, or maybe even stupid, but they were not. The Korach היה בבחינת גבוהה בעבדות Hashem. So Korach was in a higher level of serving Hashem. As it says in the Midrash, Midrash Rabbah, our sage says, Chacham Gadol, he was a wise man, Korach. ומטועני Aaron, and the one that were actually carrying the Aaron, right? Not a simple person from the street that is not in a level. It was a very high level. And his avoda was in the yirat haromemut, fearing Hashem out of, how you said, awe, out of awe, right? It's a higher, it's not a fear from punishment, it's a fear from Hashem's, how Hashem is mighty, which is a very high level. But it doesn't have the midah of achna'ah, humbleness. He didn't have it. V'inyan tchelet. So the tchelet, what is tchelet is symbolizing? So the tchelet, the blue color, is symbolizing heaven, the shamayim, and shamayim, the kisei hakavod. So it's symbolizing about the romemut, the fear out of awe. V'kanaf. What is the kanaf? Kanaf is like the corner of the talit, of the beged, of the garment. So the kanaf, it's like a piece of it, it's the corner, is about the midat achna'ah, humbleness, and surrendering. And his mistake, it says, וטעותו של קורח היה בחושבו אשר בעבודת השם מתוך יראת הרוממות בלבד, בלא הכנעה ושבט. So Korach's mistake here was said that he thought that it's good enough, or it's only to serve Hashem out of fear and not to be humble. And therefore, or because of that, and also he will be ready and prepared for the big kahuna. And this is the reason why he bring them all the talitot, shekulat chelet, it's all blue color, because he assumed that he is like a talit shekulat chelet, that he doesn't need a tzitzit, he doesn't need to be humble. By the way, there is an expression in Israel that we use it a lot, and it's coming from here. If somebody is like, let's say that is whatever, he's doing something which he shouldn't do, and then he complain about others that doing the same thing, so we can tell him, don't think that you are talit shekulat chelet, don't think that you are talit that made all of blue, like you have also flaws, right? So here we said that the blue is indicating about fear out of awe, and the tzitzit, which is coming in the corner, is about being humble. And Korach was bringing this talit to Moshe to show him that, no, I have a very high level of fearing Hashem out of awe. I don't need to be humble. And therefore, I can get to the big kehuna, the kehuna gdola. But Moshe replied, yes, it's still, even if when the talit is made all from tchelet, it still need to have a tzitzit, which means you have to have the level of achna'ah v'shiflut. And with that, you can actually get to the kehuna gdola, but not one without the other. And therefore, you're not capable of that. You don't have the midah of achna'ah, of surrendering. וזהו מה שאמר לו משה. And then Moshe replied to him, ואהרון, מה הוא כי תלינו עליו? And Aaron, what is he that you're going to complain about him? Because he have midat ma, ואהרון ma. So ma, you can translate to ma, which is what, but ma, it's also a level of ma. It's like, who is he? Achna v'shiflut, being humble and surrendering. Right, as it says in Shmot, when Bnei Israel was complaining and Moshe was replying, "Ve'nachnu ma." What are we? We're nothing. Like, why are you complaining to us? It's all coming from Hashem. What do you want? Can I change the weather? It's Hashem. And therefore, he is appropriate for the Keuna Gdola. And also explain, when it says Varon Ma'u, according to what it says in Masechet Eruvin, he said that 2.5 years, Bet Shammai and Bet Hillel were having a dispute over Noach lo Adam shelo nivra yoter mishenivra. Is it better for a person to be created or not? And it's explained in the Sefer Teshuotchen, it's the name of a book, that they both right. Both right. Right? So Bet Shammai says it's better not, and Bet Hillel said, okay, but he's already been created, so it's good for him. He's here already. So he says, Im Adam la'atzmo, if a person is only for himself, selfish, then it's better for him not to be created. Right? אם אדם לעצמו, נוח לו שלא נברא. כשליבו שבור בקרבו, כשמגיע לעשות מצווה, יודע שאין לו שייכות לזה. So he said, but if a person that have a broken heart, and when he getting into a position to do a mitzvah, he know that he have nothing to that, and he is afraid from that. So for that person, it's good for him to be created, because he's humble. And you know that even when he's very wealthy and he's need to do a mitzvah and he have lots of money to give charity, it's not from him, it's all from Hashem. But when a person is only for himself, he is very pleased from himself and he doesn't have a broken heart, right? You have a gaiva maybe, then even if he's serving Hashem, keeping Torah mitzvah because he's not humble and he's not surrendering himself to Hashem, this is not Hashem will. And for this type of person, it's better for that person not to be created, because he's going to be punished about the gaiva and everything that he has. And this is what Moshe replied. Varon Ma'u, Aaron is very humble. His heart is broken in his kribo, in his guts. In his mevatel, he's like nullify himself. And actually Aaron, if we remember that we learned a few weeks ago about the Parashat of the Mishkan, Aaron was very embarrassed because the fire didn't come. And Moshe told him, don't be embarrassed. That's why Hashem chose you, because you're very humble and your heart is broken in your guts. And that's why you're the Kohen Gadol. So coming from here, that the blemish of Korach was in the gaiva, in pride, that is very severe. As I just said in Masechet Sotah, that Hashem say about the person that have gaiva, that we cannot live together in this world. Which it's some kind of expression that was not saying about other sins. A murderer, whatever, right? It's still like Cain was a murderer and Hashem gave him a punishment, but they didn't take him out from this world. But here, because the gava, is very hate in front of Hashem. And therefore, the blemish of Korach, what he did, was very severe. And that's why Hashem get them all lost, right? They were burned and they were swallowed in the ground. As it says in Maran Bal Bet Avraham, it's the name of a book, on the verse, ובאו העובדים בארץ אשור, right? ובאו העובדים בארץ אשור, והנידחים בארץ מצרים, right? So what is Ashur? So Ashur is Gaiva, which is very takif, is a person that is very confrontational, is very strong, and is opinionated, like he doesn't have any room for anyone. And his heart is like complete in his guts, full of himself. And therefore he called Oved, lost. And he doesn't have a tshuva for such kind of a person. Because as much as he's trying to do or is doing tshuva, his heart is getting even more stronger. Right? So he's making a tshuva and said, oh, look at me, I'm a tzaddik now. And from Shamayim, they will not let him to do complete tshuva because of his gaiva. Even though he's serving Hashem, he's keeping the mitzvot, he's teaching Torah, learning Torah, etc. But because it doesn't have the achna ve'shiflut, humbleness and surrendering. And this is what it says, shekorach ve'ya'ovdu, ovdim, oved is getting lost from the kahal, from the congregation. Ve'ine, gam b'Shabbat Kodesh. So we're always coming back to Shabbos, right? So we found something similar to that. That the letter of Shabbat, Shin Bet Taf, if you change the order of the letter, instead of Shin Bet Taf, you have Bet Shin Taf, which is Boshet, like embarrassment. right? So by the embarrassment of what we did the whole 6 days, or what do we have to get into Shabbos, then when we're thinking about what we did, then maybe we didn't learn much, maybe we were trying to do something and we didn't, so we have an embarrassment for that. So that's the right way to go into Shabbat. And we need to explain it as it said in Torah Avot, from the Saba Kadosh Mislonim, that in Shabbos, Hashem bring a Jew into his dome, and Kulo Omer Kavod, to Heichalo, Kulo Omer Kavod, to the dome, right, to the palace. So the Shabbat, Ubevchinat, Kohen Gadol, so we are all like a Kohen Gadol, that we're going into the Kodesh HaKodashim, metaphorically, when we're getting into Shabbat, right? כמו שאהרון הכהן לא יכול היה להגיע. So in the same way that Aaron couldn't reach to that level of Kodesh HaKodashim, but only by the level of embarrassment that he have, and the humbleness and the surrendering, right? וזה הייתה from the Rabbi Chaim Vital, which he was the student of the Ruach HaKadosh, of what Moshe was saying to Aaron. למה אתה בוש, right? We just mentioned that. When they were trying to bring the fire, they have the sacrifice, when they were establishing the Mishkan for the first time, and they bring sacrifices. First day, second day, 8 days with no fire. Fire didn't come. And Aaron was very embarrassed. And Aaron was saying, well, because I was involved in the sin of the golden calf. So now you're putting me in front of the Bnei Israel, and we're slaughtering the sacrifice. And for 8 days, one after day, the fire doesn't come. Everybody know that it's because of me, because what I did at the time. And then Moshe told him, no, no, no. On the contrary, because you are embarrassed, because your heart is broken, that's why you were chosen. And then the fire came. So the same way we should be in Shabbat, when we're looking back at what we did, we have this type of embarrassment and humbleness, and basically we are not perfect, right? So thinking about that we're not perfect, it's very humbling. And this is the way for us to get into Shabbos, like a Kohen Gadol, that going into the Kodesh HaKodashim. And it says from Saba Kadosh Mislonim, what our sages said in Masechet Shabbat, a person should touch his clothing, right, to make sure that he doesn't have anything that are muktzeh in his pocket. But beged, bigdo, in Hebrew, it's also a traitor. So begida, a treason. So he needs to check if he was treasoning in Hashem, right? Didn't fulfill the mitzvot, etc. for the whole week. Again, it's all symbolized. We learn a Chassidut. So Chassidut, you're taking a word and you get a different type of meaning from what it is. So a person should actually check his treason during the week, what he did, how he did, if he was rebelling or not. And this is what will make him humble, and this is how we should get into Shabbat. So we started with Korach, that was bringing a talit that made all with the blue color, which is metaphorically about fearing out of awe to Hashem. And he wanted to provoke Moshe and tell him that I don't need to be humble, and therefore I can be Kohen Gadol because I'm serving Hashem in a very high level. Moshe replied to him, no, 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 you have to be humble, otherwise you cannot be a Kohen Gadol. And we should be also very humble before we're getting into Shabbat, and basically every day. Thank you very much for listening. Let's dedicate the shiur to the success of Am Yisrael, Bnei Israel, the soldiers, and freeing all the hostages, people that
Sorry,
kidnapped.
what was the last line that you said?
I said that the same way that Moshe replied to Korach, that serving Hashem out of fear, out of awe, it's not enough. You need to be humble. And we should also be very humble when we're thinking about what we did the past days before just getting into Shabbos. That will make us humble. So, and that was the topic. V'Aaron mahu ki talinu alav. Why are you complaining about Aaron? Aaron is very humble. That's why he's a Kohen Gadol. And you, Korach, you don't have this humbleness. You're full of gaiva. You think that you should be a Kohen Gadol. It reminded me a story about someone that they were offering a position to be a Rav somewhere. And he went to his Rav and he told him about that. And his Rav asked him, like, so what do you think about it? He said, I think I'm ready. He said, no, you are not ready. Okay, so he was very disappointed. And after time, there was another position that they offer. And his Rav heard about it, and he went to him and said, by the way, you know that they have an open position to be a Rav. He said, I don't think I'm ready for that. I'm sorry. The Rav said, okay, you are ready. You should take it. So that's the thing that, and we all have that. We all have that. And also Hashem created us with this pride. We should be pride in Avodat Hashem, but not to show off, right? But to be humble, but in the same time to be very happy and pleased that we're learning, that we do Torah and mitzvot and everything, but not to wave it to everyone and to say, yeah, that's it.
Korach.
Thank you for
Very
listening.
nice. Yeah,
You should
beautiful.
have a great continue of the week.